Michigan Wolverines are going to the national championship game. Hello, everyone, as we are live here. This is the plan tonight. Anthony Broom here, as we are every post-game show here on thewolverine.com, and we got one more of these to do. Next week, we will be in Houston. Flights are booked for all of us. I'm so fired up to get out there. For me, the streak lives. I have not seen Michigan lose a game in person since the 2019 Citrus Bowl when they played Nick Saban and the Alabama Crimson Tide. And my goodness, they don't make it easy on us, do they? Before we get into it, here's the plan for tonight. It's going to be a 15, 20, 25-minute recap here with me solo. Ryan Van Bergen was at the game tonight. Him and I are going to regroup in a few hours, most likely when the second semifinal game is over, to do a wrap-up show in our traditional post-game show. But we have to be here to discuss what we just saw, an instant classic at the Rose Bowl. So much to discuss. This is basically going to be your reactions and your questions. You're going to be my co-host here for the next 20 minutes or so. So use that donate button below. It helps us with the travel budget. We have another game to play now, which is super exciting. Just an incredible few days out here in LA and getting back on a plane in a few more days. So get your questions in, line them up below. If you want to move yourself to the front of the line, use that donate button. Before we get into the meat and potatoes of tonight's show, I want to talk about our friends over at Home Field Apparel. And they just, as this game went final, just dropped, I believe, a new line of Michigan stuff. So head on over to homefieldapparel.com. Use that promo code that we've been talking about all season long, Wolverine23. It'll get you 15% off any customer's first order. Over with our friends at Home Field. Listen, you've heard me talk about them all season long. They're a premium collegiate apparel brand based in Indianapolis. They have a commitment to creating incredibly comfortable, officially licensed gear with your Michigan Wolverines all over it. And I imagine having won this iconic game in this iconic atmosphere in this iconic building, there will be something to commemorate that. So head on over to homefieldapparel.com. Use that promo code Wolverine23 and look at it. It's beautiful. It's on the screen now. The Michigan football throwback roses tee. There's a lot more stuff just like that over there. I've got a closet full of this stuff at my house. So head on over to homefieldapparel.com. All right, guys, listen, I'll give you my thoughts first and we'll go into questions. You cannot play that type of game against the Alabama Crimson Tide where you make every single mistake because they will pounce on it and often not make their own. Special teams damn near cost this team a shot at a national championship. But all year, we've seen the resilience, not having Jim Harbaugh the first 3 games of the year, dealing with the stuff at the end of the season, the sign stealing, the suspension of Jim Harbaugh, your own bowl demons. They haven't won a bowl game until tonight since 2015, Jim Harbaugh's first season in Ann Arbor. So this was kind of like the last narrative that needed to be slayed. Now, you have a lot more to play for now. Playing for a national championship. You will be favored in the national championship game. You were expected to be there. You will be the better football team when you get there. You were the better football team tonight. You didn't play like it, but champions find a way. Champions find a way to push through. They make those big plays. Big-time players make big-time plays in those moments. And Blake Corum, talk about a legacy game. He is Aiden Hutchinson. He is Charles Woodson. He is Desmond Howard. What he did tonight, he's in that conversation. What you do in this game, you are remembered for forever. And Blake Corum, he's Michigan legend. He was coming into this game, and he is now. Defensively, again, things got a little dicey in the third quarter, but every time you needed a play, someone stepped up and made it. And none bigger than that stuff at the end of the game. It's 4th and 3 for the season. And they've got something cooked up, and you get it done in overtime. This is not sunken in yet. This is going to take some time to sink in. Obviously, I'm usually on game recap duties for these games. That was rewritten a few times. I called this game over at one point on the message board because it looked that way. But champions find a way. And Michigan's a Big Ten champion. Michigan is the number 1 seed in the college football playoff. And Michigan is now a Rose Bowl champion. And, what more can you say about it? They played, their C-plus game today and took down Nick Saban in Alabama. I know this isn't the same Alabama we've seen in vintage years, but when they get to this spot, usually they clean up and they take care of business. And when you let them hang around like they did, that's dangerous. And your season almost ended right in front of me. I'm in the south press box here, right on that 2-yard line when that punt gets muffed at the end. Just incredible. Incredible stuff. Too many mistakes, but when the dust clears, there's maize and blue confetti all over this field. And I'm going to Houston. We're going to Houston. I hope you guys are all going to Houston. It's a super chat here from James Amadei for $1.99. He says, buy your tickets before Texas wins. Yeah. I mean, really the play was if you could find somewhere to book a flight that has that 24-hour, 32-hour window where you can cancel for free, that probably was something you should have looked into doing earlier today. But if you want to go, you got to get your tickets now, especially if Texas wins. I mean, that's going to be – it might be like a road game. I think today, if I had to handicap it, probably 65-35 in favor of Michigan. 70-30 might be a little bit of a rosy, no pun intended, picture of it. But make no mistake, if Texas wins the semifinal game, that's going to be home game for Texas down in Houston. So, yeah, get your flights, get your tickets. It's wow. I mean, crazy that we're even having this conversation right now. Washington just pulled ahead, it looks like, 6-0 as we do this here. So Washington, I did pick Washington to win this game, and I can't come up here and act all sunshine and rainbows. I picked Alabama to win this game. I thought that what they brought to the table from an edge rusher perspective, those 2 first-round corners, I thought that was going to be something that favored them. And all this talk coming into it was about this Alabama pass rush. And is Michigan going to be able to slump? The offensive line, I think, played one of its best games of the year. Shout out to those guys. But Michigan, 6 sacks on the day, 5 of them in the first half. Alabama only had 1, and it came from Dallas Turner, who might be the best defensive player in the draft next year. Just a banner day for those guys up front. In a situation, too, where, the 2 years that preceded this, you're looking at a group that won the Joe Moore Award and then came to the playoff and kind of, I don't know how else to put it, emotional at the moment, put its britches, right? Didn't play its best football. Today, I mean, maybe not its best football for 4 quarters, but early on in this game, outside of that first maybe 5 or so minutes where everything went to hell, they were able to find a way to lock it, and they were moving the ball. This team, they dominated Alabama up front in that first half. And the third quarter happened the way it did. They had to come back and kind of fight it, and just make enough plays at the end to give themselves a chance. But they did. E-Rock 2020 for $1.99 says they said we were afraid of Alabama. I didn't see a team that was afraid of Alabama. I saw a team that was afraid of itself. I thought for a couple guys, the moment looked a little too big. Again, we love Samaj Morgan, but pretty big stage for a freshman to step up and have to try and make a big play. And not his best day. A couple guys did have great days. I'm not just going to put it on Samaj. He's a key part of this team. I think he's going to be a key part of, he's the type of freshman that doesn't repeat mistakes. So when you're looking for an X factor for next week's game, if I have to put someone on that list, it's Samaj Morgan. He's up there. Now, again, at the end of the game, Jake Thaw finally comes into the punt return situation, has his own miscue, and that's just such an outlier thing from the Michigan special teams, who again haven't been without Jake Moody, without Brad Robbins, a tick or two below throughout the year, right? But today, it didn't matter. I don't want to say it didn't matter. I mean, you win this game if you take care of business with your special teams in regulation. Man, oh man. It's from Mike in Canada, who says, Derek Moore, wow, what a breakout game. Let me look at the box score here. What did Derek Moore's day look like? 2 total tackles, 1 sack, 1 tackle for loss. Yeah, he was great. Michael Barrett probably gets my game ball, 9 tackles, a sack, tackle for loss. Josiah Stewart, 7 tackles, 1 sack, 2 tackles for loss. Mike Saber still, again, right up there, 6 tackles, tackle for loss. Mason Graham, great game. I mean, the defense did what it had to do. I thought did a pretty good job against Jalen Milroe as well. That was the big key. You look at what Milroe was able to do in this game. 16 for 23, 116 yards through the air, 21 rushes, 63 yards. A lot of that sack, adjusted for sacks. But Yeah, guys. I mean, banner day from the defense. Jesse Minter had his fastball today. Those pressures that they were sending, the guys up front, a tone was set early from that defensive line, from those edge guys. And again, all the talk was about Alabama's edge guys. Michigan's played better. I don't know that I heard Chris Braswell's name called today. One tackle. That's all he had. Caleb Downs, the true freshman 5-star safety, amazing player. Had a really nice day, 8 total tackles, a pass defended. It's a good Alabama team. Take this comment here from Ryan J, who says, the best part about this is the national media having to accept how good J.J. McCarthy is. J.J. McCarthy didn't play super well today until he had to. There were 2 drives at the end of that game where you're talking about legacy-defining stuff. And he stepped up 17 for 27, 221 yards, 3 touchdowns, no picks. Roman Wilson, the big play when it mattered most. 4 catches, 73 yards, touchdown. That 29-yard reception where the ball was tipped, and maybe if it's not tipped, it's an overthrow because it was that kind of day. But, yeah, I mean, they just made it work. They pieced it together and made it work. And really, for large stretches of this game, dominated it. It's a good Alabama team. They're gonna be in this playoff. Well, a lot of people are going to be in this playoff next year. It goes to 12 teams, but super young, super athletic. You see that on offense. But yeah, I mean, they took everything everyone was saying about them to heart, about the SEC speed, the SEC athleticism. Michigan didn't have the guys to hang. You know, Chris Jenkins told me on Saturday they wanted to show, quote, shocking effort in this game. And defensively, I thought they did. I thought they were tremendous. Offensively, too many mistakes, too many miscues. We'll talk about all those things with Ryan Van Bergen later on. I want to take some questions here. And producer Nick, if you see anything behind the scenes that stands out, feel free to star those for me. I'm going to take this one from, this is what happens when we do it live. D. Davis, who says, why all the trick plays when bread and butter got them there? 2 of 3 gimmicks bombed. You know, to be honest with you, and the one that did work was kind of lucky, right? I mean, that was all J.J. McCarthy's athleticism, his heads up awareness, things like that. Took a big shot on the play as well. With the flea flicker, Michigan hasn't sold that well all year. I watched the Ohio State game from 2021 a few weeks ago. I think it was before this year's Ohio State game. And something that Hassan Haskins was so good at was selling that fake, selling that he was going to run the ball and then pitching it back. Corum's never really been good at that. We've seen it all year. It's all over the film, and I assume they're not playing possum with it to set it up for next week. But flea flicker has not worked this year. Let's go to Matty S. says, Saban going to retire now? I don't think so. I think most of these guys on his team will be back next year, and I think they'll be able to run this back. So maybe one more shot. I don't know, but college football is kind of nuts right now. He didn't seem all that interested in talking about the state of the sport this week when we had chances to talk to him as a media contingent. So we'll see. Braden Spencer, do we want to play Texas or Washington? I think you'd rather play Washington. I think they are a little more suspect on defense. I think you can make them a little more one-dimensional. And again, the one dimension they have is Michael Penix, and he's amazing. That's enough. Rome Odunze is enough. But if you're able to just kind of pin your ears back, he's got a long throwing motion. I think that you'd be able to get pressure on him. You know, he's not quite as mobile as Jalen Milroe. Really, after all the injuries he's had, he's not that mobile at all. I think it's Washington. You know, Texas, you have that kind of SEC caliber, that Southern caliber athleticism, the depth. I think that there's a chance that would be a much more difficult matchup for them. So we'll see. I think Washington, though. And it would be kind of funny because it'd be 2 Big Ten teams for next year playing against each other, and then ESPN has to air it. This was from Michigan Go Blue 1234 for $4.99, who says, shout out to JJ for responding on that game-tying drive after struggling throughout the game. Shows his character. Yeah, that's legacy stuff. I mean, now you're looking at a guy who this Michigan team is 14-0. He is now, math is hard, 26-1 as a starter, 25-1 as a starter. It's impressive stuff. And the kid, we know he can take a hit. He's a former hockey player. He's taken a lot of hits this year, given they've had some pass protection issues, which they really didn't today. J.J. McCarthy didn't take a whole lot of hits. So, yeah, I mean, J.J. McCarthy, what do the kids say? Dog. Jim Harbaugh would say disciplined athlete with grit. Yeah, I mean, this is Jim Harbaugh's defining quarterback on his defining team. This is what this has all been building to. We have some Auburn fan love here. This is from Tatiana, who says, "Thank you, Michigan, for taking care of our light work. Love Auburn family." Yeah, you're welcome. I doubt they're watching, but shout out to the Ohio State fans who were yelling Roll Tide today. Shout out to the Michigan State fans, just for all you've been through in general. I don't think they were taking a side at all. They have enough problems. But, yeah, happy to technically, the FCC is not in the national title game. So you're welcome. Screw conference pride, right? Let's see. Dr. Detroit. You do realize Michigan's mistakes was the only reason this game was close. Absolutely. I think it was clear coming into this game, Michigan was the better team. At least on paper, right? You don't play games on paper. If you did, you would just you do what they did in 97, or you do what they did back in the 70s, where we just don't play games to figure it out at all. That's football. I mean, you're going to make mistakes. I think Michigan made way too many mistakes today. Alabama didn't make as many, but again, so much about football is the resilience, right? The responding, the response. The only thing that matters when you make a mistake is what happens next. I'm not a believer in football string theory.
Attention media, here are your Rose Bowl game players of the game.
Sorry, make an announcement.
On the offense, number 9, J.J. McCarthy from the Michigan Wolverines.
All right, J.J. McCarthy has been named Rose Bowl Offensive Player of the Game.
Defensive player of the game
is number 55, defensive tackle Mason Graham.
Also,
so how about that?
The Michigan Wolverines. Again, your defensive player of the game.
That's what happens when we do it live. We just wait things out. We're up in the box today. I don't remember what I was even saying, but basically, yeah, I'm not a believer in football string theory, where if this doesn't happen, or if they don't, all we have to do is make the extra point, and then they don't go to overtime. Well, it's a little more complicated than that, because what's the chain reaction that a 7-point lead creates the rest of the game? It's not. You can't just plug in a number and say that, well, if this happened, it would have been different. So. Let's see. This is from Roughneck, who says, "Where was the flag on JJ's out of bounds hit?" I don't know where it was. All right, guys. Here's what we're gonna do. I wanted to do the quick post-game reaction. Wi-Fi is starting to get a little spotty up here, so I'm going to dip out for now. I will be back in a couple hours with Ryan Van Bergen to do the normal show, but Michigan's going to Houston. Michigan's won the Rose Bowl 27-20 final over Alabama in overtime, all-time classic. Thanks for hopping on. We will talk to you again in a few hours. So appreciate it, and we'll talk to you soon.